just do it for Miami Dolphins. The pressure, he's in trouble. Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle. It's a Dolphin touchdown. Throwing deep upfield on the near side. Man open. Touchdown! Looking deep. He's got a man. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown! Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
You're listening to Fin Too Deep.
Tua back to throw. Blitz coming. They get to him. No, he takes off running. And he's in. Touchdown, Miami.
With the sixth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Giving you unfiltered, informed, and controversial takes on the Miami Dolphins and the NFL Draft. Here's Reason and Neal.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? We are back here for another one. And once again, like the Ghostbusters, we're crossing the streams. As you can catch us live on YouTube and Twitter right now. Neal, hey, man, big win this past weekend, but we are into the thick of it on the other side of Buffalo week here, starting to get to the other side, getting about, 72 hours away from kickoff. How are you feeling coming off a win and heading into a big game early on in the year? Because we felt that Patriots game had a playoff atmosphere. We might be in line for another playoff atmosphere style game this Sunday, which I think we might be a little bit more decisive in terms of winning.
Yeah, I would say that's probably as much fun as I have had as a Dolphins fan in my life. Your team goes out and puts 70 points. Everyone's out there eating. I mean, man, look, I don't think the Denver Broncos are a good team. I'm not going to get, I came on here last week and predicted a 10-point win. They won by 50 though, so it's like, it's crazy. I think how the Dolphins are executing right now with the ability to run for 350 yards, pass for 350 yards, the efficiency. Mostert we know he added weight. He looks stronger. He's breaking tackles. A-Chain, man, Chris Johnson 2.0 out there. Tyreek Hill, if he's either the best player in the world or number 2 behind the quarterback right now. This team, I think you and I have been beating this drum that this is a Super Bowl team for months and months. They're better than I thought they were this early on in the season, and I can't wait for this showdown with Buffalo because I'm with you. I feel like every time we've gone up to play Buffalo, right, Josh Allen was probably the better quarterback at that time, if I'm being honest. I don't think that's the case this time. I think Tua Tagovailoa right now is a better quarterback than Josh Allen. Man, this is going to be a lot of fun this season. We've only had 3 games go down. We have 14 more to go. The Miami Dolphins are your most fun team to watch in football.
Yeah, I mean, I picked us to win, 38-13, so I expect us to win by 25, but even I didn't expect us to win by 50. I mean, that was just well above the expectations, but again, it came down to execution, right? When Sanders has to kick 10 extra points in a game, that's execution, baby.
Right.
And it was just top level. You even saw when Chris Brooks came in with the 52-yard run. I mean, we were running it just to run out the clock, and we couldn't even stop moving the ball onto the other side of the field and scoring. I mean, that's when the 67-yard touchdown, Devon Achane run that set the fastest ball carrier time for the season so far. I mean, that was just good blocking ahead of him, and he just great vision. And man, he was so good on Sunday. I broke down a couple plays on Twitter today. I got a couple more I was trying to get to today, but I had some things come up, so I'll get to them tomorrow on YouTube, but on Twitter. But man, he's one of my keys to victory last week, Neil, on my Friday show. My third key to victory for the offense was let Achane loose. That was literally the third key, and they did. And again, got to give it to the offensive line. When you look at the aggregate compository score between Sports Info Solutions, PFF, and ESPN's pass block win rate, the number one pass protecting offensive line right now. But you also see that left side, especially when they're running the football, when Armstead was out there, man. Armstead, man, he looked as healthy as he's looked as a Dolphin, and it really showed in his movement in space. And he was just really good last week to Teron Armstead, man. I just hope he can continue to play at that high level. And you got to give Mike McDaniel, Butch Barry, and Kevin, and our Frank Smith, our offensive coordinator, you just got to give them a ton of credit for what they've done with this offensive line. Because, I said this, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, Neil, but I've mentioned it on here by myself. I've mentioned Liam Eichenberg, even though he had some awful snaps, bro.
He played well.
Yeah, but even his awful snaps were easier for Tua to handle than
they were high, so they were manageable. They don't fall below the
way, because even when Connor goes high, he shoots it over your head because Eichenberg is a softer snapper, right? It was a softer snap, right? So he could handle it, and or he wasn't putting it down by the shins, right? You know what I mean? Like there were awful snaps, but they were easier to handle, as crazy as that sounds, in Connor. And I'm going to tell you something, man. If you can get that kid working out and get him, man, then just you might only have to worry about filling out Austin Jackson if you re-sign Connor and Hunt, kick Connor back to left guard, because at the rate Isaiah Wynn is playing right now, Neil, I just don't see how they're going to be able to. I just don't.
How about this though? Could it be keeping Wynn and Hunt and letting Connor Williams go and then getting a traditional center? I mean, maybe that's the play. But I'm with you, man. I think that every coach, every player, everyone in the front office, the woman who books the schedules, every person in that organization should get a game ball for a showing like that. I mean, to put up 70 points, to do it in the fashion they did it, right? Like they took Tua out early. They didn't have Jalen Waddle. They still don't have their best defensive player. Jalen Phillips goes down again, right? And so much, this team can handle adversity way better than they ever could. But yeah, you're 100% right. I mean,
bro, he's Isaiah Wynn right now. Think of the money he's going to be asking for. We're going into week 4, and he's the only guard in the NFL that has 100 pass blocking snaps or more and 0 pressures allowed.
Well, and this is going to sound like absolute insanity, but that draft he came out with Quentin Nelson. I think he's the better guard right now.
Yeah, but Neil, don't you remember when we got him, how me and you were like, this is the fit at left guard, this is the answer at left guard, not Eichenberg? And don't you remember people in the media that were like, in the South Florida media, that were gatekeeping him at either right tackle or left tackle? And we were like, no, like, why do you guys keep? And now you look at how, I'm telling you, man, you got to find a way to keep that interior. You just have to. I don't know what you got to work, but you have to find a way to keep Wynn, Connor, and Hunt together, and then figure out right tackle from there on out.
Well, you know how to do it. I can tell you how to do it. You only have to let one player go.
Yeah, but I think Wilkins is Hunt and Connor's money. Yeah, I think Wynn is going to be like an $8 million, $10 million player now we're talking about here. You know what I mean?
You got to figure out how to make it work for 1 year, and then the cap opens up so drastically.
Give me 2 or 3 years.
Right.
I need 2 or 3 year contracts. You got to make this line work, bro, because we're in this window. Come on, bro. I need them locked down. And I don't know, man. We just see the level that Tua is playing at. Me and you have talked about this before. This is just the necessity this offseason is fix the front 7 and keep Tua upright, because you're seeing the results of when he has a clean jersey and he has time to process. Even still, he only needs about 2 seconds at the rate he's going right now. But
what we're seeing with Tua, honestly, it's a surprise when you look at it in the national perspective of where he was the last few years and where he is now. I think to you and I, it's not that much of a surprise. This is who I thought he was when we drafted him. This is why he's the third highest player I've ever scouted on my board in my since covering the draft since 2005. I think Tua Tagovailoa, when I thought about him coming in this league, was an MVP caliber football player on a perennial basis, and that's what we're seeing. But it doesn't go without. You could be the best player in the world in college, but then you come to the pro game, it's much faster. If you have no one protecting you, you're a dead man walking out there. Now, look, the Dolphins, it's not even like they've invested a ton of financial resources into their line outside of Terron Armstead, who they got for the cheap. But you get players that are just competent out there, and look at the time Tua has, and look what happens because of a result of it. The number one priority for this football team going forward, I don't care if you have to lose people like Christian Wilkins. You need to build a wall in front of Tua Tagovailoa because this is how good this team can be. You can replace a Christian Wilkins whether you like it or not, and this isn't me being negative on Christian Wilkins. This is me being positive on the most important player on this football team, which is Tua Tagovailoa. You have to find a way to keep that guy right. What he's doing right now, he is the best quarterback in football right now. Like, you can tell me Mahomes isn't playing as well as Tua right now. He's just not. The only other player playing on that same level is the guy he throws balls to, Tyreek Hill, man. That chemistry, that synergy, we talked about that last week. That touchdown that Tyreek scored was a broken play. He ran the wrong route. Still found him. And he still – and my favorite part about that video, dude, was that defensive back thought he had a chance, and Tyreek just is like, see ya. Like, I think it's amazing what we're seeing about this team. But this is what happens when you have an elite quarterback, right? And I hate to say it like this. The Chiefs let go of Tyreek Hill because they had an elite quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, you do whatever you can do to keep this quarterback fired on all cylinders. The Miami Dolphins haven't had a franchise player like this since Dan Marino. This is how you win championships. This is how you go to the playoffs every year. To me, winning a playoff game is the floor now. That's the floor now. I can't even take that and be as acceptable because this team's so good. You know what I mean? Like,
the only way we could take that is if we have the bye into the divisional round and we go to the AFC Championship with one win. That's the only way we'll take one win.
Right.
Bro.
I mean, like, but that's the thing is good teams make your expectations change. Yeah. That's what they do to you, man. And the only thing that's disappointed me about this football team this year, besides Jason Sanders, is Jalen Phillips. I'm a little bit disappointed that the injuries are finally, the things that we saw plague him his college career are kind of here. If he misses this game, to me, that's very disappointing. I don't honestly know how much we miss, even though I think he's a great player, because I think Van Ginkel is just – he's the guy. Dude, that someone said on one show that I listened to, he has a horseshoe up his ass. Dude, that guy always is around the football, Van Ginkel. He got the fumble again. I mean, we could speak for days about the performance of so many players on this team. I think one thing we can all agree on is I think we might have the best safety in football right now in Javon Holland. And I just, man, this matchup with the Bills, it's not. It doesn't.
Did you hear Fangio talk about Holland today? And even he said he has a chance to be a really, really special player. I mean, I've been telling everyone in Fangio's defense he was going to be an All-Pro, and here we go.
And dude, and Deshaun Elliott's playing good football next to him. So everyone wants
Brandon Jones.
Deshaun Elliott. You remember when I said that earlier in the year? People were like telling me I was crazy that I thought Elliott was a better overall player than Brandon Jones. I saw this guy very close up here in Baltimore, man, and he was the unsung hero of that defense. He made big plays. Yeah, he is playing really, really good. Raekwon Davis is playing good football. This team, man, maybe their holes aren't as big as we thought they were too. Because I don't love our linebacker core. I'm not going to get it any confused with the steel curtain at all. 70 Steelers linebackers, but they get the job done, man. There's going to be some tough times. I have to think for like any other NFL.
Yeah, there's going to be adversity.
There has to be. There has to be. But what I don't fear, I think if this defense holds teams to 24 points or less, we win. This defense could give up 3 touchdowns a game and we win. And that to me makes this team the most dangerous.
And what if when they finally unleash Cam Smith, you get the defensive production version from that position that you're getting from Achane? Because
it's It's a great time to be a Miami Dolphins
Because look at
fan,
even
man.
Justin Bethel. Look at the level he's playing at in that defense right now. He was playing at a high. He was noticeable before they even basically gave Eli Apple snaps to him. I was noticing him.
And honestly, man, that's why I got to stop. I personally have to stop worrying about the salary cap so much. We get a guy like Bethel in here for freaking less than $1 million a year, and he's playing great football for us. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
where like the cap will always work itself out. Like it really, really will. I mean, damn, man, I like. We gotta go to sleep 3 more times before the freaking Bills game. You know what I mean? Like, God, I wish I could hit fast forward. It's just an amazing time to be a Dolphins fan. I was literally so
How is this
proud.
not in prime time after what all
Oh,
3 games last year? How is this
you
not in prime time?
you're gonna get to watch the Jets lose by 30. I just think that for me, man, like what I say is that football, being a fan in football, man, it's such a double-edged sword. And to be a Dolphins fan, you've had to go through some stuff, man. But to have the feeling that I think a lot of us are experiencing right now, which I truly believe is the Dolphins are the best team in this league, to get to hear, to get to celebrate this, to watch this and kind of enjoy this with the fan base, man, to me personally, it's why we do this. It's why we
Yeah.
cover this team. It's so much fun when you have people to celebrate with, man. And when I jumped in your post game, and dude, I mean, that's just that's euphoria at that point. You know what I mean? It's euphoria, man. It's like, to me,
Well, this way, I mean, we had what, like 700 or 800 people in that post game after. If we beat the Bills, we'll be at like 11 or 1,200 people.
well, and
That's where we were for the Chargers.
I don't think it's if, man. I think it's when. I think this Dolphins team's so ready for this game. They're such a swagger. And the guy that I've circled and starred, because I thought I was being bold last week when I called a 20-yard touchdown run from Devin Achane, and he had 4 touchdowns and 237 yards, right?
Ridiculous.
But the guy who's going to go off this week is Jalen Waddle, because he had to watch all of his boys go out there and have the games of their life.
Bro, did you see that post game picture with all the Bama players and how miserable Surtain looked in it?
Oh.
It was hilarious. And Judy.
Well, I will say this. In a scenario where Denver has a fire sale at the end of this season and maybe they move off of Russell and they have a high enough pick where they're looking at Caleb Williams or Drake May, if they want to put another Surtain at number 23 on the Miami Dolphins, let's have a conversation.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into this. So it was a fantastic month for one player, that's for sure. We talked about him, best player of the month in the AFC. Tua Tagovailoa is your AFC player of the month with a 71.3 completion percentage, 1,024 passing yards, which I think is only second to Kirk Cousins right now, 8 passing touchdowns, a 121.9 passer rating. And what's even more historic about this, Neal, this is the first Dolphin player to win it since Scott Mitchell won it in October of 1993. So it's been 30 years. And then before that, Dan Marino won in October of 88. And Dan Marino also won it in November of 86. So we've only had this is now the 4th Dolphin player to win it since all the way back. Since you go back to 86, only 4 Dolphin players have won this award, and Tua does it in the first month of the season. To start it off, I know I got to repeat myself, but I was warning everyone all offseason that year 2 could be historic, and the accolades just keep piling up. Neal,
what we're seeing here, Reason, is the player he was comped to coming out, he was a left-handed Drew Brees, right? That's what a lot of people said, and I see that.
But Drew Brees doesn't have his anticipation or his arm strength.
Yeah.
I think he anticipates at elite more at a higher level, bro, than what he did.
Well, what I tweeted during the game is I feel like I'm watching peak Tom Brady play football. That's what I wrote. That was my tweet. And I think the similarity between him and Brees is going to be Brees' career really started after he left the Chargers and went to New Orleans. And I think for Tua, his career really started after Brian Flores was out of the equation.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see like I'll be bold. I think you're going to see a guy go on a Hall of Fame trajectory. That's what I think.
If
we're
he stays
about to witness.
healthy.
If he stays healthy, I
Yeah.
think this is a guy that goes on a Hall of Fame trajectory. I hope that we see breaking news at the end of the season, or if they decide to have the conversation now, I'd give him Joe Burrow's contract, but I do think the Dolphins should protect themselves with a clause about concussions. I think they have to be
No,
smart.
playtime. Just go playtime. Playtime in general.
So I think they have to have some safety for their organization, but I'm good with paying Joe Burrow money right now. I'm good with that because if I'm on the mark here, we're going to see a guy who's going to flirt with the MVP on an ongoing basis, who's going to be the guy. When you look at the face of this franchise, of the league, not the franchise, the face of the league, you're going to see the Patrick Mahomes in that picture on the Super Bowl commercials, and then you're going to see Tua Tagovailoa. Like, I think the best story in professional sports going right now is that Tua Tagovailoa was buried by NFL analysts on the 2020 hierarchy of the quarterbacks that came out in that draft. It was Burrow, it was Herbert, it was Hurts. Hell, it was Jordan Love was better than him. And now, when the story's all going to be said and done, I truly believe the guy that initially was the best player that had a setback because of the injury is going to make the comeback better than the
Time
setback.
evens it out.
And he's going to be the best quarterback in that draft class. Because you can't tell me. I know Joe Burrow's hurt, but he looks like shit. Let's just say what it is. He looks awful. I benched Joe Burrow in every league I have for Tua Tagovailoa in fantasy football. I've done it. And it is what it was. If you're in my fantasy league and you're listening, please call me. You can have Burrow in a trade. Let's talk about it. Like, I'm done with it because I think that for the rest of this season, Tua Tagovailoa, everything that comes out on any one of those charts, Tua's off the chart. Tyreek Hill's off the chart. Everything that comes out, that's a list, statistics. Tua's either 1 or 2. I just think this guy deserves his props. I love everyone that's kind of on the apology tour, the Colin Cowards of the world, all that stuff. It's great to see, but I don't care about that. I am so glad for Tua Tagovailoa, the man, that he is getting the accolades he deserves. And, it's been awesome to see, man. For me as a Dolphins fan, Tua being able to kind of get his career back in his hands, have a coach who believes him. It's one of my favorite things I've ever seen in this sport, period.
I just love that, how vindicated all of us who stuck to the film and watched it and stuck by our evaluation. Man, I love how he vindicates me even more every week now.
Dude, he's such a special human being. Most people give up, right? Most people quit. Young quarterbacks that go in his situation, like Zach Wilson, like Jamarcus Russell, all those young quarterbacks that are drafted really high and adversity hits them, they
Josh
quit.
Rosen.
They get out of the league. In 3 years, you never hear about them. 3 years later, Tua Tagovailoa is the MVP of this league right now. And that's what I love about Tua Tagovailoa is that, man, there's something in that guy. You say that it factor. You know what that it factor is? A guy that believes in himself. He believes in his path. He's not going to go off of it. You can beat his ass down.
You've seen it in game, though. You saw it against the Arizona Cardinals where Kyler wouldn't even shake his hand. Hell, you saw it against the Atlanta Falcons in that last year of Flores, where even though he threw the 2 picks, he brought us back in that fourth quarter, left the field with a 2-point lead and said, "Here, Brian.
Yeah,
you got that vaunted championship defense. Go stop him." And then Brian Flores and the defense give up the middle of the field to Pitts, and if we would have won that game, we would have made the playoffs. Right. Just like if Brian Flores wouldn't have been outcoached by Urban Meyer, at the end of the game we would have made the playoffs.
It's funny, Reason. I don't think we've seen it yet, though. Like, I think we see. Like, what I mean is, I don't think we've even seen Tua get to his peak yet.
He's only year 2 in this offense. Wait till he's like year 4 into this offense.
Yes, like we're seeing him really start to hit his stride, and he is such, when he's in rhythm and he's getting that ball out in 2 seconds, the line's blocking. I know, like, you'll hear people say, like, this is like the Wildcat or this is like Lamar Jackson 2019. It's just not, because they did one thing really well. The Wildcat was a one-dimensional, we're going to run the ball. Hey, we got a couple wrinkles of the pass out of it. It was pretty easy to figure out in time. I personally didn't think it was going to last. I knew as soon as we played Baltimore in that playoff game, we were getting smacked. When I watched Lamar Jackson, I saw defenses. I saw him for a second time, and then he shriveled up in those games, and he still is not the passer that everyone wants him to be. This is a lot different to me, man. This is a you can't stop the amount of speed that's on the field. You don't have the talent. Unless NFL defenses go and find 4 cornerbacks that can run at 23 miles per hour, this is going to be a problem for the long haul. And Mike McDaniel isn't going to – this isn't what Mike McDaniel has. He's got so much up his sleeve. There's so many variations of what he wants to do. Like I've already said that I think they're going to have a huge trick play in this game that we haven't seen yet from this team, and Buffalo's going to be caught on their heels with it.
They're setting up the keys. Look at that big Achane run for the touchdown where they had that wing back look with Tyreek Hill that they usually motion him out of at the snap or right before the snap, but instead they had a stack to the left with Smythe. They moved Smythe, they motioned him off the stack, then they motioned him again across the backside, and it ended up being a toss to that side with Achane. It was a false key. They had set him up with that whole wingback look all game, and boom, Achane off to the races. And it's like, I said, breaking down the all 22. Why were they showing that shovel pass? They showed it more than once. That's not something, and they showed you 2 variations of it. Right. What are they setting up with that shovel pass, brother? Because they're setting you up for something. Because they showed you 2 different looks out of it. Right. They showed you 2 different looks. They showed you from in front, right, and then they showed you deeper out that they could score either way on it. And McDaniel, there's always a reason, bro. There's always a reason for what McDaniel is showing you, and they didn't need to pull that out of the bag. They were already dominating them, but they still showed it. And I'm sitting here like, what's he setting a team up for? And it might not be this week, but he's setting someone up for something down the line with that for sure.
I think an empty hand shovel's coming with Tua keeping the ball in his hand.
No, you know what I called? What if they flea flicker out of it? What if they get good enough protection where they do the flick and then he flicks it back to Tua and someone's wide open and Tua just finds the wide open throw? That
For you little Giants fans, they might run the annexation of Puerto Rico out there. They're so damn good right now. Like you know what I mean? Like they're firing on all cylinders.
We talk about salty Tua, but we need to talk about cocky McDaniel, brother, because it's a real thing.
Dude, I'll say this. Mike McDaniel did a great job in his first year, but his growth, I think, is on par in year 2 with what we're seeing from Tua. I mean, he is making a drastic leap where I think I saw somewhere in the preseason on NFL.com, they had him ranked as the 14th best coach. This guy is unbelievable. And like, aren't you excited about the fact that this guy is so young and can legitimately be here for 20 years?
It feels like Shula 2.0. We used to joke about it when he'd rock the aviators, and now it's a real thing.
It's amazing. And I think that's what you want from your franchise, is to have that continuity. Like, we've been waiting a long time. We've had Joe Philbins of the world come in here, Cam Camerons of the world, Flores. It's pretty amazing to see something that looks like it's sustainable for the long haul, where we finally found a quarterback, we finally found a coach. And honestly, after that, everything works itself out.
Knight says Miami special play, and we got a couple people, I might have to take the Shula back. Did we find our Bill Walsh?
Yeah, I think that's very interesting, man. But I'll tell you one thing that I
look at the copycats. Remember, did you see Washington State even copying them last weekend? Like colleges are already starting to copy. By the way, we need to talk about how good of a passer Michael Penix has turned into over the.
Yeah,
if you look at him from year 1 to where he is right now. Holy geez, that man's taking a jump. But anyways, Washington State, I mean, like, they were running his plays. You see McVay was running a bunch of, because McVay's the ultimate copycat. He was running a bunch of McDaniel stuff. Like, I'm telling you, and what I'm interested is I want to know his wrinkles his counter wrinkles for when people start trying to figure him out.
Yeah,
that's what I'm waiting for. You know what I mean?
He's doing a really good job of what he showed to the Chargers, and I think we're going to see that again this week. I'm trying not to get in, too deep here. I'm trying not to get like I'm a cocky guy that just disrespects any team that we're playing, like the Buffalo Bills. But I'm not afraid of the Buffalo Bills at all. No. I'm not afraid of the Bills at all.
But let's talk about, a couple things you just said there we can segue into. Talking about, like, not being a cocky guy, not being that kind of guy. I don't know if you saw it, but everyone was questioning and people were even booing why we didn't run up the score. I don't know if you saw this, but Tyreek,
The Miami Dolphins head coach, would you have kicked that field goal?
I got to take his mentality too.
Nah, whatever your mentality is going into that moment, like after we get on now, are you kicking the field goal? Because the fans believe this and not start booing us.
It's a spectator sport, bro. I'm kicking the field goal. Records are in place to be broken. I'm not trying to tie a record. If I'm there, I'm going to go ahead and surpass that record, and I'm going to set the new standard. Y'all set several records in that game. Do you go out the next game and say, hey, we got these records, let's try to beat them? That's the mentality, just like anything you do to be better than the last game. Would you have gone for it? That's the question.
It's one of those situations, man. Football can be a very tricky thing. The captains, we told coach that, hey, man, let's just kneel the ball and get out of here. Because at the end of the day, man, we all believe in karma. We don't want nothing crazy like that happening to us later down the road.
so there you go. I mean, it's now been confirmed, Neal, that wasn't even a McDaniel call. That was the team captains coming together and saying, we don't want to run up the score on the Broncos. We don't want karma coming down our line. You're talking about not being that kind of guy, not trying to be cocky. Now we found out that was a player's call, not a coaching call. And the coach, abided by their wishes, which is even more classy. What are your thoughts now that we know that it's the team captains came out and said they didn't want to run just for karma reasons why they didn't run it? Because I actually respect the hell out of that.
Yeah, I think that sometimes mercy can be more powerful than dominance. And we had beaten the shit out of them. I mean, we have stole their soul. They had quit. We had offensive guards going 20 yards downfield and putting safeties on their asses. We embarrassed them to the tune of something that the NFL probably hasn't seen in over 50 years. Then, first of all, I don't know if Jason Sanders makes the field goal, so let's just say that. But second, I think the point was proven. There was nothing else to prove. Who gives a shit about an arbitrary points record? You made your mark. You let them know. You did it without Jalen Waddle. You did it without Jalen Ramsey. You did it with only Jalen Phillips for the first half. You took Tua out in the third quarter. People that know football, people that know ball, right? They know what could have happened. We could probably put 84 on them. They couldn't have stopped us. We could have done whatever.
They had given up too. They weren't even running them out with us. They were just letting us walk it in at some point.
Those guys, I think that I respect the hell out of it too, and I respect the hell out of our captains because this is a brotherhood between those players. Putting up 3 more points against the Denver Broncos doesn't do anything to help us. I think it might put a target on us. So I think that they did the right thing, and I think it's amazing that Mike McDaniel let his captains make that decision. I think this is a unique culture where that type of stuff is happening. Those conversations are happening. I think that's the story here is that Mike McDaniel believes in his players so much, it allows him to dictate the way he's going to operate. And I don't know if he agreed, but I don't feel any better or worse if they score 73 points. Do you care about that record? I could care less about that record.
No, I don't care about it. I care more about this Sunday than I do about that record.
Right.
But I think you made a good point with the target thing there because it's only 3 points, but the talk of going from they scored 70 points and they won by 50 to they set the record for the most points scored in a single game is a big difference in the grand scheme of things. And I do think the target gets that much bigger if you set the record. And I do think you're already going to have a target putting up 70. Why put a bigger target on your back? By now you're the team that set the record in the modern era. And you've still got 14 weeks left in the season. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that one thing that gets lost in this game is that sure, I'm not saying the Broncos are a good team, but they have Russell Wilson playing, and he's playing at a top 10 quarterback in the league level right now. If you look at the numbers, he's a top 10 quarterback.
Still not happy with him,
right? Sean Payton, whatever he was on many
feel like
people's.
He wants his guy, right? Like you feel like he wants.
Yeah, well, on many people's list, that guy was probably ranked a top 5 coach in the league, right? They have Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. They have Mike McGlinchey and Garrett Bowles, and who's the left guard they got from Ben Powers? They got from Baltimore. Yeah. I on the offensive side of the ball,
Mike McGlinchey, they gave him all that money. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a walk in the park, but they only scored 13 points. They had a 99-yard kick return that gave 7. I think that the Dolphins actually beat a pretty formidable offense because the Washington
defense is just washed.
Yeah, the defense just sucked and they were gutted. And you know what though? We exerted our will on them that got them there because Pat Surtain's a top 5 corner in football.
Well, and I think they really missed Justin Simmons because like Turner Yell wasn't that good. Pound says not kicking the field goal was like the Mr. Miyagi nose honking Karate Kid.
Right, exactly. Like that is exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking more of like a samurai with a sword and a guy begging for his life about to get his head chopped off, and you come all the way down and you stop it. But like, I get what you're saying. I agree with it. I think that was a mercy kill anyway. I think they did steal the heart of the Denver Broncos. I think the Broncos are going to quit. I don't think they're going to come back for Sean Payton. I think they're done. I think Jerry Jeudy is going to get traded at the deadline. I think Pat Surtain is probably going to throw a fit and try to get out of there. His dad's on the internet saying my son deserves better. Like
after he just was chirping that he told his son how to stop Tyreek Hill in the offense. All right, so this senior needs to pump the brakes a little bit here.
I love Surtain. Stop Tyreek Hill. Why don't you worry about stopping Robbie Chosen first?
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
and Mike White.
Yeah. Knight says he benched Burrow for Russ as well. All right, so we kind of talked about McDaniel and the genius, and we've talked about, you know, obviously championship here a little bit. I saw this interesting thing, and before we get a little bit more into the Bills and the Dolphins here, I got to play this, man. What were your thoughts? Because I don't know if you saw this, but when you talk about Mike McDaniel's resume, there's something unique, and was he potentially foreshadowing his success in Miami?
I mean, the first client was Mike McDaniel.
This is his agent speaking.
We really sort of sat in the room together for 2 years, and we would just talk about all this stuff. I mean, you know, we would talk about the vision for our careers. We would talk about the build out of collective and what it means and the importance of it. We would talk about where we're going to go. I'll be the first one to tell you, because I think Mike's story is all about people needing to see it before they can believe it. And, you know, and I'll never forget one of the first times I met Mike. It doesn't take him very long to show you his resume. And at the top of his resume, it's going to say, I'm going to be a Super Bowl winning head coach. And, you know, and so I remember.
Wait a second. On the resume, it has that statement. It doesn't say Yale undergrad and coach of Texans. It says, I'm going to be a Super Bowl winning head coach. I mean, that sounds awfully arrogant to me.
It's absolutely arrogant. Didn't you see the play callers? That's Mike. You know, I mean, it's that belief in self that separates him. I mean, but that is honest to God truth.
So, I mean, over 500 of you in the room right now. Please smash that like button, subscribe for new. I mean, the belief in self, Neal. I mean, we've always talked about this. I've talked about this. You know, you look at the McVay tree with Shanahan, McVay, and McDaniel and LaFleur and stuff. They all seem like really nice guys and easy to get along with, but you know they're arrogant because you know they know what they know about offensively and et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, you got to walk that fine. You know, I ain't cocky, I'm confident. So when you tell me I'm the best, it's a compliment. You got to be able to walk that fine line. And, you know, you got to be able to know you're great, to execute at greatness, at a level of greatness. And I think McDaniel understands that. But my God, Neal, we hired a coach who at the top of his resume, and he had that through multiple different jobs in the NFL, going from job to job. That's been on his resume for a while. And that was his agent saying that. So, Neal, would you see what's happening? Would you see how he's turning out to be a head coach? Is this man potentially foreshadowing the success with the Miami Dolphins? And what do you think about putting that on your resume? Because that's like going to get a sales job and saying, I'm going to be the salesman of the year 5 years running, and ain't no one going to stop me.
Well, I'll say this. I have a Post-it right here. I'm in my office at my work, and it says, if you're not innovating, you're becoming a dinosaur. That's kind of how I've always lived my life, is every day I want to approach it different than I did the day before. And you have your days where you forget and you kind of do some of the same stuff. But I think what we're seeing is that Mike McDaniel is going to revolutionize this game. I think what he is doing is bigger than just the success of the Miami Dolphins now and beyond. I think he is putting on a clinic of how to evolve in the NFL. And it's running the same basic concepts, but finding a million different ways to get to them, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that is what makes it really challenging for defensive coordinators is you kind of know what is coming, but you don't know where and when it's coming from. And I think that's what makes it a really unique here. I mean, the thing about Mike McDaniel and the reason he can put that on his resume is because he puts in the work to back it up, man. Like, effort is a talent that requires no skill. You show up and you put in the time. And this guy, man, I'm telling you, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Getting the right guy to steer the ship is one of the most important things in this league. His accomplishment last year of changing the culture that he inherited, which was rotten from Brian Flores. Overnight, there was a swag and energy. Check your pulse. First thing he does on the plane is call Tua Tagovailoa. He's a very calculated man who knows how to get the best out of his players. And I said this last week. I said the Dolphins are operating near their floor more than their ceiling. Then they go out and put 70. And I still believe that. I still believe that.
You know what? You know what's funny you say that, because I had a private conversation with someone, and I said I still don't think we've seen a motivated Miami Dolphins yet. And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I said, they only got up for that game because it was the home opener. They weren't motivated to go out and beat the Denver Broncos. They were motivated to go out. It was home opener. The energy was going to be real, and they're just a much better team than the Broncos right now. I think the scary thing is you haven't seen a motivated Dolphins yet. And, you saw a little motivation against the Chargers, but the real motivation is what you're going to see this week. I would be so shocked if they came out flat. And it goes back to what McDaniel just talked about a couple of days ago, where he said they remember what happened in the playoffs, and they know that they should have beat them in December. Tua was back to his MVP form, but Sherfield and Hill dropped touchdown passes, and Boyer allowed that third and long conversion before the half and wasn't really great, and our defense let us down. And then Skyler almost beat them in the playoffs. So if we would have had Tua, we know how that ends. We win that. So they're sitting in their mind saying, we know we should have swept them. Now we're more comfortable. We got a better coordinator on the defensive side. Our personnel is a second year, some of those young guys like Kohut and stuff, second year together, they're better. And you look at the offense, the second year of this offense, as comfortable as they are, this is just a better version. So they're probably saying to themselves, if we should have swept them last year and we had the deficiencies we had to overcome last year, the injuries, Boyer, etc., what should we be able to do to them this year? We shouldn't be able to just sweep them. We should be able to sweep them potentially decisively. And that's where I think we're at, bro.
Where we barely lost to them in the playoffs, there was a guy who was really missing out there, and that was Tua Tagovailoa. You think that guy right now isn't sitting in a film room right now breaking down the Buffalo Bills saying, man, I'm going out there on Sunday. I'm coming out swinging.
Dude.
And
one of the reasons Tua's been so good this year is you can see his work in the film room, how big of a sponge he's been, and that's why he didn't get flustered or floored in adjusting to what Belichick threw to him, because they were expecting it, they were prepared for it. Tua just seems as prepared as he's ever been, and that speaks for me as the coaching staff in the film and his work in the film room right now. He's ready, man.
I think the Bills are in trouble this week. The Dolphins are coming in firing, man. The Dolphins are going to get up for this. The Dolphins are no longer that team that just plays down to their competition, and fails on the big stage. They're ready. They go out, that home opener, man. A lot of people were questioning whether it was a trap game. Was it a trap game? We went out there and literally beat the piss out of the Denver Broncos, right? Like this team's built different, man. The DNA of this team is something that I don't know if we've ever really seen it in our lifestyle, because, I was pretty young when Marino and Shula were together. I can't tell you that Neal's 6-year-old memory was great, right? Like, this is a different team, man. This team is born for the spotlight. It's going to be 70 degrees in Buffalo on Sunday, man. It's going to be beautiful out there. This Dolphins team is going to come in there and win this game by 2 touchdowns. That's what's going to happen. I really think that's what's going to happen.
I agree with what Very Tired of Doing This says, because this is based off what McDaniel said. The motto is play to our standards, man. And I think our standards are the expectations, and that is a Super Bowl team. And Justin donates $5, said Fins absolute the F up. Love you guys. Can't wait to beat the Bills by 2 scores on
Good minds
Sunday.
think alike.
And the homie Finn Hub, he says the best Dolphin show on YouTube by far, the most in-depth, accurate channel for all things Dolphins. I appreciate your craft and continuous grind, my friend. Finn's up, brother. If you aren't subscribed to Finn Hub, go support the homie out. That's my boy right there. Over 530 of you in the room. Smash the like button. So we kind of touched on it. So let's ask this question, Neal. All right, is Vegas kind of, doing us dirty and unjustly by making us 2.5 point, 3 point underdogs wherever you go? And, a little extra info on this for everyone. The Dolphins are the 12th team in the last 20 years to be 3-0 straight up and against the spread, but be listed as an underdog in their 4th game. Those previous 11 teams went 2-9 straight up and 3-8 against the spread as a dog. Not only that, the Dolphins are averaging 43.3 points per game. They're the 27th team in the wildcard era since 1990 to average more than 35 points per game through 3 games. The only other team that was listed as an underdog in the next game, the 2017 Rams, +5 in Dallas, 135-30. Because the action is coming in right now. The action is, we got 78% of the bets on the money line are for Miami right now. When you go about the spread, about 65% of retail bettors are taking Miami at that +2.5, +3 right now. Is Vegas kind of doing us dirty coming off of those odds after coming off of that big of a win where you put up 70 points and you won by 50? Or when you see the numbers there, do you feel they're going a little bit more over the history? Because again, in the last 50 years, teams that have scored 60 plus in the week prior have not managed to cover once in their game. They've been 0-7 since.
Yeah, it's hard to rip on Vegas because when I walk into the Venetian, it's nicer than my house. But I will say this. Me personally, I've made the second biggest bet of my entire life in favor of Miami this week. So that's where I am with the game.
How much you put down? Let the people know.
It's 4 figures. I'm not going to say the exact amount. But that's how much I believe. I believe they're going to win. And plus, my wife might be watching and kill me. But I believe that much in this team, man, right now. And I think they do look at historic trends. And it's early in the season, and they don't want to get the hype of the Dolphins beating what they put in quotes a bad team. The Bills are one of those teams that, they get a lot of love from Vegas. They do get a lot of love, and they have good players. My outlook on this game isn't me ripping Buffalo, because I still think Buffalo is a top 3 team in the AFC. I think Josh Allen's still a top 5 quarterback in football. I think Stephon Diggs is an unbelievable player. This is more my belief in this football team and how our strengths match up against their weaknesses. Like, they have an old secondary. Tre'Davious White's not the player he was before injury. Both safeties didn't practice today. I think they're probably just veteran days off, but they've both been banged up a lot over the last couple years. They don't have a lot of speed in that secondary. We know what we have there, right? We know what we have there. I think Matt Milano is a good linebacker, even though I hate his stinking guts. But I know that the guy from South Florida, Terrell Bedard, won the Player of the Week last week, but that's not Tremaine Edmonds out there, right? They don't have Von Miller in this game. They have pedestrian pass rushers. I think Leonard Floyd's better than Greg Rousseau at this point, to be honest.
I didn't like Rousseau coming out. I was not a fan of Rousseau coming out.
I'm not scared of them, and I know that Vegas is going to pick them. I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, Reason, I think a lot of the money is going on Miami nationally. I listened to a betting show on the way in here, and I heard that. So at the end of the day, I'd like all of us to take some money from Vegas. So you know where to put your money this week. It's going to be on the Miami Dolphins, because they're covering. They ain't losing by 2.5. They're not losing by 2. They're not losing by 1. They're winning this football game, and I don't see it going any other way. I think the least likely scenario is, I think the most likely scenario is the Dolphins win by something respectable. I think I think the second most is a blowout in Miami's favor. I think the third most would be the Bills inch out a win. The least likely scenario I see is the Buffalo Bills curb stomping this Miami Dolphins team. I just don't see how that can happen.
So a couple things heading into the game. Jalen Waddle has officially cleared concussion protocol. Connor Williams was back at practice today. Jalen Phillips was not. The question that I have is, can Fangio contain Josh Allen better in your mind than past defensive coordinators have? Because I also don't know if you saw what he said about Baker today. He said there's more there for Baker today when he's talking about Jerome Baker, kind of putting Baker on notice a little bit. Over 575 of you in the room. Please smash that like button, subscribe for new. This is a big question to me because, what is Josh Allen's 9-1 against us, right? Tua should have a better record based off last year. You felt the pendulum swinging last year. And now we've got a better coordinator out there who I think can use our personnel better. I don't see us giving up that. Like, if you would have put Fangio in that defense, especially that late in the season when I think they would have been way more comfortable personnel-wise in a new defense, I don't think they give up that 3rd and long before the half like we did last year. What are your thoughts on this? Because I think, and spoiler alert, one of my big keys tomorrow is going to be for defensively, you're going to have to confine and contain Josh Allen to the pocket. Now, we've done that before and he's beat us. That's happened before, but I think it's a different deal with this defense and Fangio's defense and where our secondary's at right now. So what are your thoughts on Waddle and Connor Williams? Waddle back, Connor Williams trending to be back. And do you think Fangio can contain Josh Allen better than defensive minds and defenses, Flores, Boyer, etc., we've seen that have come in years before?
Yeah, Waddle's going to eat. Waddle's jealous. He missed that game. Waddle's going to have a big game. Connor Williams is going to tough it out. He's going to be out there. I think Josh Boyer actually did a better job than Brian Flores of containing Josh Allen. So anything that happened before Mike McDaniel got here, I don't really care. You know what I mean? I really don't. I think what Mike McDaniel showed is that he was 1-2 against them last year. And one of the losses came in a playoff game without Tua Tagovailoa. A 7th-round rookie quarterback almost beat the Bills. Yeah. I would be disappointed if Jalen Phillips isn't there because he was one of the best players on the field in that playoff game. And I think he is vital at setting the edge. So I hope he gets out there. And what was the last? I'm missing one of the things.
Fangio. Do you think Fangio can contain Josh Allen?
100%. He'll do a better job than anyone we've mentioned. Yeah, I think he's got a pretty good plan for doing so. I know that Josh Allen historically didn't do great against Vic Fangio defenses, if I'm not mistaken. So I think, and I think there's probably going to be some pressure coming from Jerome Baker, probably up the middle. I think this team's going to be really, really ready to be. I think Wilkins and Sealer are going to be ready on that defensive line. I think Bradley Chubb had a really good game in the playoffs too. Deion Dawkins has been running his gums about the Dolphins all offseason, throwing jerseys on the floor in the store. Yeah, it's on, man. It's on. This is a rivalry again. It wasn't a rivalry.
Doesn't it feel like, I want to ask you, Neal, you brought up that word. Doesn't it, like Richmond brought it up, and I said it even before them. Doesn't this feel like that high school rivalry that shuts down a city, or that college rivalry? The high school rivalry that shuts down a town, or that college rivalry that shuts down a city and packs 100,000. It feels like that Bills were getting back to, the old days of, Marv Levy and Don Shula and Jim Kelly and Tua Tagovailoa. It feels like we're getting back to those days, does it not?
It does. It actually reminds me of the 90s Jim Kelly, Dan Marino rivalries, and they didn't go in our favor. But, I'll say this. I have that feel, because we've had times where the Jets were our rivals. We had times when the Patriots were. It's back to being the Bills. This is our rivalry. They're going to play each other close. It's fun to have that reignited. It wasn't a rivalry.
The Patriots, Neal.
It wasn't a rivalry before McDaniel because all we did was lose to the Bills. It's not a rivalry when team gets their ass kicked all the time. Now it is. Like, look, I think this is the game this team's probably had circled and started on the counter for a while. If I'm a player on the Dolphins, I don't like Matt Milano. That cheap shot he took against Tua last year would be in my head. I don't like Deion Dawkins walking around running his gums about us throwing our jerseys on the ground. I have those things in my mind as a player. You know what I said earlier today? If they get the ball first, let Josh Allen drop back first play, let Christian Wilkins hit him after the whistle, take 15 yards and say, hey, this is what's up today. pack up. It's going to be a long day for you. I don't care. I love, there's nothing this team can do that will take me out of the element now, because it's like I trust them. I trust that they'll make the right calls of the coaches. Maybe they won't challenge the right plays every time, because that's one thing I do think we need a little work with. But yeah man, I think the Bills are in some serious trouble here. I think Monday morning the internet's going to be broken. Anyone that doesn't have the Dolphins as number one in their power rankings will. That's the headline Monday morning is going to be, this Dolphins team's as good at advertised.
It's going to be us or San Fran. Yeah.
Yeah, they took it to the Buffalo Bills. They're for real. Tua is the MVP. Tyreek.
So what's your score?
38-23.
So you got us winning by 15.
Right.
More points than you had us beating Denver by. Go figure that one out. I love it.
Right. I do, man. I actually thought a little bit like the Dolphins might sleepwalk a little bit last week. I really did. And I just don't think they have that in their DNA. I think they hit this all at 130 miles per hour. That's the whole thing about their thing, is speed and how they execute and how they prepare. You saw what Terran Armstead said today, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't even have Victory Monday. They went right in to watch a tape about Buffalo. They were laser focused about Buffalo. They got on that. They got in that facility the next day, and they didn't even care that they won 70-20. I'm sure they had a little bit of fun around it.
Which is the point I made. And people thought I was playing it, downplaying it, when I said, no, I enjoyed it Sunday, and I woke up on Monday saying it's Buffalo week.
Dude, it's been a quiet week out of Miami. This team is all business right now,
yeah,
man.
They're focused.
They are ready. They are laser focused. They, honestly, you didn't see all the interviews of players up there like, ha, we kicked ass 70-20. You see a different mindset from this team, man. And I think it starts with this quarterback. I think this dude's a leader, man. I think people like Terran Armstead, who's been a veteran in this league, they look up to this guy. I think he has the respect of his peers. This is chemistry at its peak. I know, man. I know, man. If Michael Buffalo retires, give me a microphone. I'll practice my let's get ready to rumble and rock and roll. But man,
let's go.
This is the most fun I've ever had as a Dolphins fan. It's only going to get more fun.
And Tua said it's the most fun he's had since he was at Bama, and all he did was win when he was healthy there. So still over 550 of you in the room. Please smash that like button, subscribe for new. I'm going to be live tomorrow at 5 p.m. to really dive in and preview this game with my keys to victory, my matchup to watch. Everything will be covered regarding this game. So be on the lookout for that. Then I'll be live for the 1 o'clock kickoff. We'll be live a little bit earlier than that, and we'll be live reacting to the game. And then about 10-15 minutes after the game ends on Sunday, it's the 5th quarter post-game show, and hopefully, and I think we'll be celebrating a 4-0 start to the season. Knock on wood, let's get it done, baby. So we appreciate all y'all for tuning in. Thank you for spending some of your Thursday evening with us. Smash the like button. Still over 500 of you 550 of you in the room. Please smash the like button on the way out. Subscribe if you are new. Appreciate all y'all for tuning in, and you already know what time it is, baby. Fins up all day, every day. Let's go eat a Buffalo Bill burger, baby. Let's go.